need a nap.
Yeah. It's a lot. I mean, it's just a lot of information. It's a lot of information. And
and it's intense.
Yeah. And I'm aware that, well, in my own mind, I think we're working to try to find a way for these things to be helpful and useful for folks and not be overburdensome in just like downloading information. And so I think I was probably a little worried about that.
Well, I think
this time
the information is such, it's a component. We need that information, right? We can talk about things, but the information is super helpful. And then I think, okay, I'm going to go back and listen to that because there's so much information. What, Pep?
I was going to say, can you hear me?
Yeah.
If you hadn't given information today, I wouldn't have thought about what happened with Hannah and I the other night.
Yeah.
Huh.
I mean,
Cool.
And it taught me and is encouraging me to do more.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And to that point, Curt, Pep, when you talked about that conversation, like one of my mentors, she will often say, I'm holding this with you. Like there's no real solution to be had. It's just the weight of something.
Yeah.
And if somebody says, I'm holding this with you, like I can hold a lot of things of other people's, like,
yeah,
I can do that. And so, but to hear somebody say that, then it's like, okay, the burden, the weight of it gets eliminated almost immediately.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an imperfect metaphor, but I think about you pick up a 5-gallon bucket of water and you can do that, but then, it doesn't take very long before it really starts to get uncomfortably heavy. And then if somebody says, well, here, let me just hold it with you. And as soon as somebody else grabs half the weight,
yeah,
you feel it. And if and if it were something bigger than that or whatever, where you could do it, and a third person walks in and says, well, let's hold this together.
Yeah.
And so I'm serious. This experience that I had with the member of the group, the confessional community, the intensity with which she was holding her own distress that was just kind of really overwhelming her in that moment. It was absolutely stunning to me to watch what happened over the next 4 to 6 minutes as she first just paid attention to me. And she's trying to match my breathing, and we're just slowly. And then I said, when you're ready, I want to invite you to simply start to look around the room at the other people's gazes. And one by one, and I'm watching her while she's watching the others. And you watch it. It's like watching, I don't know, it's like watching some body of water go from this chop to just you just watch it plane out.
Yeah.
And it was striking to me to see what the body of Jesus was doing on her behalf, because everybody is leaning in and saying here, I want a hand on the handle. I'm going to help hold this. We're all going to help hold this. And so now, it's like 1/8 of the weight. That's imperfect, but
yeah. Another thing I thought about, hearing about the dogs was troublesome. I think it'll be troublesome to a lot of listeners. But this was done in 1967. Is that right? Or ish?
It was done a long time ago.
Yeah.
Right.
It's troubling that part of it. But I immediately thought, oh my gosh, in the context of community, we tell our people, we tell our friends, the door's open.
Right.
The door's open.
Right. Right.
You
We
can't
do.
even fathom that idea, but I see that it's open. We don't have to get up. We don't have to do anything right now, but.
And it's very very difficult for our friends to move.
Yeah.
Pat.
No, it just got me thinking about people that are in abusive relationships that don't leave them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and if we move to action, because I was with some friends, one friend said, told of a rupture her boyfriend had created. And immediately we were all angry and protective and we resisted the urge to move to action. Like, okay, what are you going to do? Are you going to end this? You should end this, because this is clearly whatever. We all had thoughts, but it's like, if you move to action, you miss what's happening and what's going on. Because if I can just say the door's open, or what do you see as other options, then it's this cadence of, I don't even know what processing or.
Right. And the thing is that if we move to action too soon, we're actually preventing their own cycle from being completed.
Right.
Because we're doing the work for them, but their body needs, like,
to get there.
They actually have to get there on their own in order for them to complete the cycle.
Right. Right.
It's
like
one
the
thing.
Abusive. No, go.
Right. No, it's one thing. And it depends upon, what, it's always tricky, because we are always trying to find the line between, who is and who is not capable of moving. Right. Like, you're in a fire and you've got 3 toddlers in the house. Like, you pick them up and go. Like, you don't say, hey, you don't tell them to go, like, because they're not capable of doing certain things. You pick them up and you go. But, and so there are certain times when we say, I mean, I've had moments, they're very infrequent, but they're, because usually you're asking questions like, well, what do you want to do with that relationship? And what are the things that you can imagine, and what, all those things.
Right.
It's uncommon, but I have on occasion said, here's what I'm going to recommend that you do. I'm going to recommend that I strongly recommend that you consider having no more contact with that person for at least the next 6 months.
Right.
No contact.
Right.
And I'm not often very directive like that.
Yeah.
But there are times,
yeah,
when they need to hear it.
Right.
And
Just
not because they're actually even
for safety,
right. And not even because necessarily they're going to do it that day.
Right.
But because they need to hear that somebody else is speaking that strongly on their behalf.
Right. Yeah. And that's where sometimes it is helpful to hear someone's anger.
Yeah.
Because
right.
like, oh, okay. It is appropriate. It does make sense that I'm angry. Yeah. It's good.
It's in our men's group that we run, this happened just this past week, where there was one person was telling his story, and 2 or 3 others, they're like, tell me where to find the guy.
Yeah.
Like they're so angry.
Yeah.
On behalf of this person. And this person is like, I don't really get it. I don't really get it. And they're, of course, like, you don't get it?
How do you not get it?
And over the course of the evening, it was this, remarkable transition for how they were able to express in other words, the anger that they were expressing didn't just belong to them. It belonged to him.
Right.
But he didn't have access to it. But as they started to name it, and he could see it outside of his own skin, you could see him moved from this place of like being puzzled to this place of being uncomfortable, to this place of like feeling it himself.
Right.
And then, of course, there's like, but now, I've spent the last 20 years working really hard not to pay attention to this. And now that I've allowed my eyes to open, see that it's in the room. Now I know why I haven't been paying attention to it for the last 20 years. Because now I don't know what to do with it.
Right.
And so we say, well, we're going to come back next week, and we're going to talk about it again. And it's not just talking about it, like you'll figure out what to do with this eventually. But first you need a space. You need to widen your window of tolerance. You need to be able to hold it in order for you to discern what you're going to do with it.
Right. Right. And that progression is important.
Yeah.
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 It's good.